Hey everyone, it's Snowflarky's Emos. I'm here today playing Master Duel, and we got the normal and rarity festival going out. So I thought I'd just take a second and showcase a deck I started playing. This is the first deck I started playing for the event and did a lot of my early farming with. It is Normal Pendulums, which is a deck I enjoy. It's the only Pendulum deck I've ever really played, mostly just because of my obligation to play normal monsters, but it's pretty fun. It's a simple way to play Pendulum. Really cool deck. And it works pretty well for this event, given that so many of the cards are of low rarity. I will say that unfortunately, this deck is just kind of a weaker version of metalfoes. Metalfoes, I think, being the best deck from my experience with what I played against throughout the event. Um, but it's still a fun option if you like these cards, and it was still good enough to get me my 10,000 tokens relatively quickly. So, let's get into card by card. Starting off with our monsters, I am playing 3 copies of Siege Dragoons of Draconia. This is one of our lower level monsters in this deck that we mostly want for its scale. It's got a 7 scale here, so that's pretty good. And while its offensive stats are not good, meaning that it doesn't help us OTK, its scale effect is pretty nice. When a monster is destroyed by battle, you can special summon a normal monster from your hand. So that's pretty cool. Works really well with Dragoons of Draconia, which is an 1800 attack monster, scale 2, so good other side of the scale. And once per turn, for its pendulum effect, if a normal monster you control destroys an opponent's monster by battle after damage calculation, you can add a level 4 or higher normal monster from your deck to your hand. What's nice about this effect with Siege Dragoons of effect is those will apply in a proper sequence, so you can destroy a monster, add a card with Dragoons of Draconia, and then Siege Dragoons can special summon that card, giving you more offensive presence and often pushing further for an OTK, which is pretty cool. Next up, I'm playing 3 copies of Flash Knight. Flash Knight is just an 1800 attack, 4-star vanilla. Got that big, got that big 7 scale, which is pretty nice. Mostly we just want to use this for a body because we'd rather be using a scale that has an effect, but sometimes you just need a scale and you get it. Next up, I'm playing 3 copies of metalfoes Gold Driver. This is 1900 attack, 4-star normal monster, which is pretty cool. I do find that it's important to have these these 4-star lower normal monsters so that you can, pendulum summon, and then you can have something normal summon. Just ways to play around Torrential Tribute, which is pretty popular. Now its pendulum effect we're not really using because there's not any other metalfoes cards we're playing, but we're mostly just using it for its 1 scale and its 4-star, 4 stars and 1900 attack. Pretty good body. Next, I'm playing 2 copies of Foucault's Cannon. This, pendulum scale 2, 2200 attack, so on the larger end here, and has a pretty nice pendulum effect. Once per turn during the end phase, if this card was activated this turn, target a face-up, spell or trap card on the field, and destroy it. That's pretty sweet. Next up, playing 3 copies of Sky Dragoons of Draconia. 2200 attack, 5-star monster with a pendulum scale of 7. This is probably my favorite Pen 7 scale in the deck because this effect, once per turn, when a normal monster you control inflicts battle damage to your opponent, target a card on the field and destroy it, is pretty powerful. That is just a pretty good card, and that makes it pretty cool. Next, playing Dragonhorn Hunter, 2300 attack, 3-star pendulum. So do note with this one you can't pend out Siege Dragoons of Draconia, which is, no big loss. Pendulum effect, all normal monsters gain 200 attack, and you take no battle damage from battles involving normal monsters you control. Kind of, that attack boost is fine enough that this is a fine 3 scale to have. Not as ideal as Dragoons of Draconia here, or say Foucault Cannon, but still very useful and searchable, so that's very important. And then next up, the big boss of the deck, 3 Lance Ferincus. This one's got 2500 attack, making it the largest of the Pendulum monsters, and of course, if it's your scale in the 7 slot, if a normal monster you control attacks a defense position monster, inflict piercing damage to your opponent. This has been really nice against all the decks that are playing Battle Fader that I've seen. I've seen Battle Fader a decent amount, and just like some of the stall strategies, and it just speeds up the clock because it means on your follow-up turn when you're going to attack Battle Fader, it's going to take piercing damage. Next up, I'm playing 2 copies of Tenyi Spirit of Shitana. Everything in here is a non-effect monster, so this is a free summon into a Link 1 Monk of Tenyi. But most importantly, Tenyi Spirit Shitana works with the Pendulum monsters because they're all normal. Essentially, if a face-up non-effect monster you control is destroyed by battle or graveyard, banish this card from your hand or graveyard, target one of those destroyed monsters, and special summon it, destroying one monster your opponent controls. So that's pretty sweet. Uh, Glad to have, we want that protection, we want that destruction. A lot of this deck, a lot of what makes this deck successful is just resource generation and out resourcing your opponent, which is pretty cool. Next, I'm playing a copy of Tenyi Spirit Vishuddha. This one is limited for this format, but that's fine. It's still a good free summon for only having normal monsters, can go in a Monk of Tenyi, and of course has the great effect if you control a face-up non-effect monster, you can banish this card from your hand or grave, target a card your opponent controls, and return it to the hand. This is nice because it gets around a lot of the monsters that are immune to destruction, which otherwise is pretty powerful, and can open your opponent up for an OTK. So pretty awesome card. And that is it for our monsters. Next up, going into the spells, I am playing 3 copies of Summoner's Art. Summoner's Art adds a level 5 or higher normal monster from the deck. That is a number of targets, including Lanfarincus, Sky Dracoons, Dragonhorn Hunter, and Full Cult Cannon. What's nice about this is that there are high and low scales all among these level 5 or higher normal monsters, so whichever scale you're missing, Summoner's Art can get you it, and that's just a pretty nice thing to have in general. Next, I'm playing 3 copies of Flawless Perfection of the Tenyi. One of the things I really like about this deck, and one thing that makes it pretty nice because it gives it some ability to play first and second. Flawless Perfection of the Tenyi makes all non-effect monsters on the field unaffected by monster effects. So that's pretty good. You're not going to get Black Ship of Corn for game when they're not affected by the monster effects, which is pretty sweet. And more importantly, if your opponent special summons an effect monster while you control a face-down monster or non-effect monster, you can draw 2 cards. So, normally in a Pendulum deck, you want to try to go second in OTK in this kind of limited format. But in this, with this card, it's not as punishing if you go first, because if you have Flawless Perfection and a normal monster, well, then you might be able to draw 2 cards, assuming they don't MST it. And if you do, then of course that's more cards. That'll get you more pendulums. That'll allow you to just end the game, which is pretty sweet. Next up, 3 Heart of the Underdog. During your draw phase, when you draw a normal monster, you can reveal it and draw 1 more card. This is a nice card also to have on turn 1 because if you play Heart of the Underdog, you either force the 1-for-1 removal, which is fine, or Heart of the Underdog sticks and you're going to draw a bunch of normal monsters, giving you a ton of value over your opponent and just giving you a whole board of things to throw at them at once, which is pretty sweet. Next, I'm playing 3 Mystical Space Typhoon. There's lots of trap cards. There's lots of back row. You want to be able to stop metalfoes before they can start popping things. So Mystical Space Typhoon is pretty good here. A lot of these cards here at the end can be subbed out for other things, and sometimes you got to give flexibility. Maybe play some less monsters if you're having more trouble dealing with certain decks. But 3 Mystical Space Typhoon, pretty useful in my opinion. You can play the Paleozoic guy here, but usually it's easy to flood your board with monsters, and you don't want to clog it with the Paleozoic guy. And the MST flexibility, being able to play it on your turn is pretty nice. That's it for our spell cards. Next, we're moving on to our traps. I'm playing 1 copy of Compulsory Evacuation Device. Target a monster on the field, return it to the hand. This is really nice for the decks that are going into extra deck monsters. Something like Gadgets. If they're not making Dragalun, you can send their monster right back, and that minuses them a whole bunch of advantage, which is pretty sweet. And I'm playing a copy of Fist of the Unrivaled Tenyi. It's just a Solemn if we control a non-effect monster, and all our normals are non-effect monsters, so pretty good. Pretty powerful card. And of course, if this card is destroyed by an opponent's card effect, you can special summon a non-effect monster from your extra deck, which is coming in handy a lot more in this because people are just blind MSTing or using the Paleo Spell and Trap Removal card to just destroy everything, which is pretty sweet. Yeah, definitely some room to mess with your ratios in this deck if you want to play some more trap cards for some more defensive capability, or you can just lean all in on trying to OTK. So a number of different options that makes this deck pretty fun. And that is it for our main deck. For the extra deck here, I'm playing one copy of Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon. This is for summoning out if my Fist of the Unrivaled Tenyi gets popped, because it's a non-effect monster with a 4,500 attack, which is as good as it gets. Next, I'm playing 3 copies of Gem Knight Pearl, which is a rank 4 non-effect monster, 2,600 attack, is fairly nice. And, you know, it's just something to do with a bunch of these leftover level 4s in the deck if I need something with a little bit more of an attack boost. Up next, I'm playing one copy of Black Ship of Corn. 2 level 4s, detach material, target a face-up monster your opponent controls, and send it to the grave with attack less than or equal to this card. It's very important. And if you do, send it to the graveyard, inflict 1,000 damage to your opponent. So it's pretty nice. It's kind of like the Gaga Cowboy Game Ender in this format. And of course, it's non-destruction removal, which is pretty sweet. Then next, I'm playing a copy of Heartland Draco. Which is pretty nice. While you control a face-up spell, your opponent cannot target this card for attacks. There is a lot of face-up spells you'll have, so it's very likely to keep that alive. And of course, once per turn, you can detach a material from this card. This card can attack your opponent directly, but other monsters cannot. So it gives us a little 2,000 attack point finisher, if you want to do so. Next, 3 Monk of the Tenyi. It's a Link 1 non-effect that our Tenyi cards can make, which is pretty sweet. Next, the big one that we go into most, Defender of Labyrinth. It requires 2 normal monsters, and when it's summoned, non-effect monsters you control gain 500 attack. Also, your opponent's effect monsters lose 500 attack, which is pretty nice. And it's got those good link arrows left and right here, which are nice for a follow-up Pendulum summon, especially because if you're using normal monsters, they just go right to the extra deck, so you're going to pull them right back out. And of course, if this card in its owner's possession is destroyed by an opponent's card, you can target a non-effect monster in your graveyard and special summon it, which is pretty cool. Comes in handy. And of course, next I am playing 3 copies of Berserker of the Tenyi. This is just a big Link 3 payoff we can make if we have a Monk of Tenyi on board, because it just requires 2+ monsters, including a Link monster, and it's got 3,000 attack, which is pretty nice. And that's it for our extra deck. Now, here is a recorded duel of the deck in action. I'm up against Gadget Deck, which out of the meta decks has probably been my favorite here. So they're going for a standard play, silver into green, adding red, setting some back row, so more back row heavy than normal. And this particular game against this Gadget Deck, I think was my favorite game I played, was my favorite match I played using this deck during the course of the event so far. So I'm going to start with Tenyi, just get extra body on board. I'm going to summon my Dracoons here, and it of course gets banished. I'm going to now use Shitana to summon this and pop Silver Gadget, trying to see if I can cycle through all the gadgets this turn and get them spent. So they summon their gold here, which is fine. I'm then going to activate Flawless Perfection of the Tenyi, which was a misplay. I should have done this beforehand, because then the summon would have given me a draw 2. So something to keep in mind, and something I definitely had to learn because it was one of my early duels with this deck. So unfortunately, they have the Paleozoic out to my monster, but that's okay. I have a non-effect monster on the field here with Flawless Perfection to try to draw 2 cards, and I have Heart of the Underdog, which hopefully will draw me a lot of cards. So they do overlay here into Heavy Arm Trained Iron Wolf, which is fine. Draws me 2 cards, that's why this card's so nice. Now I don't care that Monk of the Tenyi is gone, because I'm not OTK'd. I got a lot of cards. We're going to see if I can draw a lot out of Heart of the Underdog. So I don't. I draw Fist of the Unrivaled Tenyi, which kind of stinks, but that's alright. I have Summoner's Art, so I'm going to be able to set my other scale. Now I have my Pendulum scale set, so I can summon out my Dracoons of Draconia. Now I only summoned the 1 monster as opposed to Flash Knight to play around a Torrential Tribute, if they wanted to do something like that. But to no dice, now I get to pop the card, which was Torrential Tribute. Pretty nice. Unfortunately, I destroyed Gold Gadget, which is getting silver and keeping the cycle going. At this point, my deck, I'm just hoping to wear them out of resources, which I think I'll be able to do in the long run. So they make Black Ship of Corn. I get to draw 2 cards. Now Black Ship of Corn, they did not read Flawless Perfection because I am unaffected by Black Ship of Corn's effect. And then, of course, they go into Heavy Armor Train here. They're basically trying to detach XYZ material to target a machine-type monster. they control, it can attack our opponent directly this turn. I'm going to say no to that by lost winning. That will also half its attack so that I can be getting over this monster. But they are going to summon the Paleo in the meantime. So now they turn their 3 monsters into a copy of Triple Burst Dragon, which has been a big Link payoff. Once per turn, during the damage step, it can negate a spell trap or monster effect, which is pretty cool. It's got 2400 attack, and if it attacks a defense position monster, we inflict piercing damage. Now it attacked our monster, but we didn't take any damage because of Dragonhorn Hunter. They just follow up with a set 2 and pass the turn. Again, I do not draw a normal monster, so I normal summon Sea Dragoons of Draconia to make my Defender of Labyrinth, reduce their attacks. Now I'm going to Pendulum summon a bunch of monsters. Here they are. They do play Torrential Tribute, which I am going to negate with the Fist of the Unrivaled Tenyi. Keep my board protected. Now they're going to play Mirror Wall, which was a pretty good card in this case. And I failed to realize that this was damage step and that I am getting my lost win negated, which kind of sucks. But Mirror Wall will definitely buy them another turn. I'm going to play my second Heart of the Underdog, hoping to stack. Now they're going to put all their monsters into attack and do quite a bit of damage to me. Triple Burst will be negating my Defender's effect, of course. Now with Heart of the Underdog, though, I'm going to use both of them to draw 2 cards. So it's pretty nice. And because I've ended on a normal monster again, I get to use both of them again. And this is the power of Heart of the Underdog, getting to draw me a bunch of cards. And again, as long as I don't deck out, you know, it's a good thing to do. Keep myself access here. Alright, so I've ended there with a Torrential Tribute. I'm going to Pendulum summon a bunch of cards. You know, I take the damage first. But now I'm going to plow through their field because I'm able to pop their Mirror Wall with my Sky Dragoons. They're going to Gold Gadget into Red Gadget, get some more gadgets on board, but this time I am going to really chip away at their monsters so they got nothing left. Boom. And hit them for 2,000 direct. Now I get a Torrential Tribute, which I'll be okay proccing, even if it's my turn, because I have so many monsters still in my hand that I'm going to get so many more. So they're going to go into Tin Goldfish, which is going to go into Green Gadget. That's going to get me draw 2 cards, and I'm going to Torrential their board, which is pretty nice. So draw 2 cards, another card. I don't need any more cards off of Heart of the Underdog. I'm just summoning. I accidentally clicked proc and destroyed my own Heart of the Underdog for BM, and then I attack directly for game. So, you know, Gadget's one of the more competent decks, and that's the deck in action. So, that is my Normal Pendulum deck that I've been playing for the NNR Festival. One of a number of different decks I'm playing, but seeing as this is the one I played a lot of games with and climbed with, and is just a deck I know better on its own, I figured this is the one I'd showcase. Also, I haven't seen as much coverage about just the regular Normal Pendulum. So, but yeah, NR Festival is, in my review, I think it's all right. It's, you know, it's new with some newer decks, but I will say, unfortunately, this meta has been solved really quickly. Metalfoes are clearly really good. Megalith is, of course, pretty powerful. And it's just unfortunate that despite the fact that it's like a new format for the floodgates to open, most of my time has been spent up playing against either Megalith, Metalfoes, or like the Gadget deck. I've seen only a couple other things. I saw like a Blackluster Soldier deck, which was something that was planned, but yep, mostly everything kind of being solved already. Kind of spoiled it a little bit, but either way, it's been fun. But let me know what you think. Are you having fun? What are you playing in the NNR's Festival? Especially let me know if you're playing something cool, because with NNR Festival, I'll try it out. Why not? But thank you much for checking it out. I'll catch you all in the next one. Take care, Duelists.